Hello there, and welcome to Alvarez's Diecast Customs. Now today we're going to be working on this Hot Wheels 1979 DeLorean Turismo. This one was one of my previous builds, which I did the brush steel effect on it. I was pretty happy with how it came out, but it was a bit bland in my opinion. Here's how it started off, bit of a monstrosity, sort of circus looking thing, I don't know. Anyway, let's get on with taking this one apart. Yeah, it's a pretty cool effect with the brush still. Just not very interesting to look at. As you can see, I've already taken time to drill that one out. Just use some 5mm self-tapping screws to go into them. There's that interior piece. Not too bad with that. Got a base piece where I glued the new axles and wheels in there as well. And that window piece. And there's the body. Definitely want to do something about that window piece. I just polished it last time, but I could see there's a few sort of scuffs and things on it, so I want to go a bit further with that. Just pop these old wheels out, just use a flat head and just pop it out, break the super glue that's holding them in. There's those wheels. They're pretty good wheels to be honest, but definitely going to try with something else on this one. Save them for another build. Let's get that paint stripped off anyway. Here we are, that's after the paint's been stripped. Gonna go about making some wheel arches on this using some milliput. So I'm just gonna be using some old bits of aluminium can and cut to little strips, and just gonna use these as sort of like a little guide and a bit of support for when I place the milliput on. Also decided to go with these wheels on it. These are some real riders that I've got in my sets. Very dwindling amount of them at the moment, so I've got very few to pick from. I'll just go about using some super glue just on a toothpick, run it around the inner wheel arch, and then placing some of those aluminium pieces in there. Go about all four of them doing this. That's what you're left with. Good sort of support guide for the milliput. So we can get on with moulding some wheel arches for this now. Just be cutting two equal size pieces off each of the parts. And then you just go about mashing them together for a while. You need to make sure they're fully blended up. I just like to cut it into like little easily manageable chunks. And then just go about placing this onto the body. Pressing it quite firmly in place. It does stick very well to these things as well. Also just trim off some of the excess with a scalpel. It's a very rough mould though. I do put more on than I need just because I want to be able to shape it once it's dried. So that's what we're left with after placing some more on there. It's the general sort of idea that I'm going for with that. It's fully hardened now, so we can get on with moulding it. It also cuts very nicely with a scalpel. So we'll just go about removing some excess stuff with the scalpel. And once we've removed enough, we can start going about filing it down. So I just like to use these fine diamond files and just work my way around. And there's bits of aluminium can, we can just pull those off. This leaves us with very round, smooth archways in the wheels. Perfect. So after a long time sanding and filing, this is what we're left with. Tried to go with a bit more of an angular shape on some of the arches, just to mimic the front end on this thing and the stylings of it. coming together quite nicely so far. And there's those wheels. I've knocked up some axle tubing using some brass rod, make some little holes and poke the axles into them, and use some super glue to hold them in place. You can see how I've done this on some of my previous videos. We're just going to be going about using some plasticard as well, just adding some sort of spoilers and front splitters and fenders and all that. So yeah, just offering up little bits of plasticard and seeing where I like the fit of them, and then using a pencil just to mark the linings where I need them. Not very specific with it all, just sort of putting things on there and seeing if it looked good, and I'll go with it. So I just use the scalpel to cut the plastic cards. Just go over it a couple of times. And it snaps in half very easily. So yeah, as you can see, that front splitter, quite a nice little fit on there. So we can go about gluing that on soon. He also chopped up some more pieces. We've got the rear splitter as well. And another big piece for the entire bottom of the chassis. Just wanted some sort of skirts around the sides of it to widen it up. And last but not least, a little spoiler. So I've just gone and glued all that on. Glued the axles in there with the wheels as well. As you can see, it's really coming together now. Really like where this is going. I also added some extra details on that rear splitter. Put 2 bits of brass tube and as exhaust pipes, and 2 little bits cut into sort of wedges as vertical parts. As you can see, that front splitter's on there. I did round off the edges on it slightly using one of the files, just to make it look a bit more aerodynamic. So I went ahead and painted this metallic grey. This is straight out of a spray can, but I initially primered it as well, which was also straight out of a spray can. Did 2 coats of primer, then 2 coats of metallic grey. Also went over the base. I did take the tyres off before I sprayed it. I just used matte black for this. I'm going to be using this Sharpie metallic blue paint. I just want to do an edge on these wheels. I'll just place the pen onto the edge of the wheels and slowly just rotate them. This gives a very even, smooth finish, as you can see. Now with the tyres that were on there, it had this green stripe all over them, which I want to remove, and I'll show you how I went about that. So I'll just be using this black Sharpie, and we'll literally just draw straight over that line. Sorted. And there's those wheels placed onto it with the tyres. Also going to be picking out some extra details with this blue pen. Just be picking out the edges of the plasticard parts that I've glued on, just to give it a bit more sort of dimension. I wanted to go with a bit of a futuristic sort of look on this DeLorean. Just picking some extra details out using some Revell silver, painting on the exhaust pipes. And also the chassis, just some little details with the suspension arms and things. Just using some Tamiya metallic grey for this. And in the interior, Just picking out some extra details with that too. Also not forgetting those tail lights, we'll go over those with silver. And after that we can go over with the clear reds and oranges, which we'll get onto now. So here's the Tamiya clear orange for the indicators. Painting straight onto that silver, gives it a good bit of depth, that does. And with the clear red as well for the brake lights. On the window piece, I just went over with some very fine sandpaper just to take off some of the nicks and dents on it. And I'll just be using this Tamiya clear straight out of a pot, using a brush, painting it over the top. It sort of clears it up and makes it look shiny again. That came out lovely. And on the body, I'm just going to be using some Citadel Nuln oil, which is essentially just a dark wash. Just be running it through the panel lines on this thing. Really like to highlight these on some of my recent builds. I do think it gives a really nice effect. So yeah, as you can see, it's not so noticeable yet, but once you get that clear coat on it, they really pop. Also went over the tail lights with the Nuln oil as well. And we can get on with clear coating. However, this was where it all went wrong. The clear coat bubbled the crap out of itself, so I ended up having to take the paint off. Actually just used a screwdriver and scraped it off. Took a couple of hours to rectify that. Also, I've got an Instagram account, which I did put some of the progress on this build up on there. Bit of a sneak peek. So yeah, do check me out. I've got a link in the description box down below if you want to check it out. There's a lot of content up on there already, so feel free to drop by and follow me and whatever else. So here we go, we're just putting it all back together. After rectifying all that paint problem, I basically just had to repaint the entire body again and glue the plastic card part on the spoiler. A bit of a nightmare, but I didn't want to lose the wheel arches. I couldn't really just pop it in a pot of paint. It would have just completely destroyed all the milliput pieces that I stuck on there. So I went about it the difficult way of just scraping it off with a screwdriver and hoping for the best. But it worked out in the end. So here's what we started with. That brushed steel DeLorean that I tried to go for. Pretty cool, but a bit bland. Need a bit more of an upgrade on this one, I think. So I definitely wanted to come back and revisit it. And here's what we ended up with. Yep, very pleased with how this one came out, especially after that whole paint problem. I thought that was the end of it. I thought it was going to end up in the bin after that. I didn't know if I could correct it. But very pleased I did. Rolls very nicely still. Much better application of the clear coat, which I don't understand how it went wrong. It's the clear coat I always use. It was a new can though, so maybe that, but I shook it up good as I always do on them anyway, and started spraying it on, and immediately it just started to wrinkle and bubble. Absolute pain. But on the second round here, came up much better. I don't know what was the difference. See those little bit of detail on that chassis. I do like how that blue Sharpie brings out some of the edges on the plastic card parts. It gives it a bit more sort of futuristic look to it. Also contrasts quite nicely with the blue window as well. So I hope you have enjoyed watching what I've done to this DeLorean again. Wasn't sure if this video was going to make this weekend, but I managed to pull it together a lot quicker than I was expecting, especially with the errors that I had. Please do let me know down in the comments what you thought of it. Maybe you like it, maybe you hate it, maybe you're not sure. Or if you've got some ideas for some future builds, always let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. And like I said, do check out my Instagram account. I've got a lot of pictures up on there of some of my previous builds and also some sneak peeks of builds that are coming up. So always do check that out if you want some sort of sneak peeks. And also follow the community tab as well on YouTube. I did put up a sneak peek video, I did put up a sneak peek photo of this one. So yep, check those out if you want, guys. Anyway, this has been Alvarez's Diecast Customs. I do hope you have enjoyed watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Not sure what that one's going to be. Check out my accounts that I've been mentioning. You'll probably find out on there. Anyway, see ya.